David Brewster here from the Three for All, and this is three Shawn Lane licks from 1996. And honestly, I don't even know where to begin as far as trying to explain or, uncover who Shawn Lane was. I mean, he was a complete musical anomaly. I mean, one in a billion or one in a trillion type of player. I mean, you really don't find musicians that talented, that forward thinking, and just pushing himself, through his whole life and his whole career. I mean, just a brilliant, brilliant musician. And it's very sad, that he passed away. But we do have music. There's, some instructional material he made for REH, and there's, recordings and session work that he did. And here's some quotes, some famous quotes, about Shawn Lane. Now, I'm completely honored and very privileged. I got to meet Shawn Lane when I was a student at AIM in Atlanta, the Atlanta Institute of Music. And Shawn Lane and Andy Timmons came and did a double header clinic. And I remember I was so excited because I knew who Shawn Lane was, and I'd already met Andy because he basically was from Evansville, Indiana. And I saw a clinic that he gave at Dallas Pro Music way back in the day. I was still in high school when I saw that. And then eventually, I got to meet him again. And I've actually met Andy, numerous times over the years. But I did get to meet Shawn, and it was unbelievable. I mean, they came to the school. It felt like Christmas. There's Shawn Lane, Andy Timmons waltzing in, did a sound check, and they both combined just blew our minds. But I have to admit, Andy's always great. Andy's phenomenal. But Shawn Lane was like from another planet. I mean, I can't even explain, just how kind and soft spoken and friendly he was. He signed some autographs and I got to meet him and we talked. I'll never forget the next day of classes after that clinic, the president of AIM, Knight Driscoll, he addressed, the class. It was like, mostly guitarists. I think it was like a country guitar class or something. We were just talking about Shawn and Andy. And he said, well, just so you guys know, I was sitting there watching all the guitarists in the crowd as Shawn played. And he said, all of you look like deer caught in the headlights of a car. Like you didn't blink. I think, you guys were in shock. The licks I chose here are kind of tame, compared to some of the things that, Shawn Lane was, capable of and known for. I mean, just blinding technique. I mean, the kind of stuff where it would make, Buckethead and Jeff Loomis and people like that, freak out, just impeccable technique. I'm not even going to attempt to try to show you, some of the crazy fast stuff. We're going to take it easy, but I'm going to expose some things and some kind of secrets. Well, the licks that I chose in the bootleg that I kind of, chopped up a few ideas from, it came from 1996. It was a live performance, like a drum workshop in Atlanta, I believe. And it was, Shawn Lane, Jonas Hellborg, and Jeff Sipe. And it's killer. If you can see, watch some of that footage, it's really good. But like right before they played the song Abstract Logic, he does this little kind of guitar solo or this kind of interlude of guitar, and like there's Jonas is kind of playing like some bass notes, and there's some little cymbal, kind of action and stuff. So they're kind of just like improvising. I mean, you can tell it's completely just off the cuff. Okay, I know this is three for all, but I'm gonna pack this full of all sorts of things. So there's gonna be way more than three things in this lesson. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just the tonality of the solo. It's kind of playing with E Lydian is really what he's playing around with here. So think of sharp 11, tonalities. You need to really get that sound, kind of in your head. Okay, so that's the tonality we're going to be playing with. Now, one thing is, Shawn definitely, he's mixing three different things at different times during the solo. He's mixing a pure Lydian scale, which you can find right there. He's also flirting with the major pentatonic in E. And then one one other little secret he's mixing in here, he's also playing with D sharp minor pentatonic. And, you know, yes, we're playing over E. But this is kind of an interesting idea. This comes from jazz and fusion. So this is a pentatonic substitution. And if you play D sharp minor pentatonic over, you know, E major or E sharp 11, definitely make sure there's a sharp 11, you know, on board. But if you do that, it's going to imply E Lydian. And you might be thinking, do what? But, you know, pentatonic substitutions, I mean, that's something you can find, you know, Scott Henderson, and John Schofield, and there's a lot of, you know, jazz and fusion players that do this. But Shawn definitely was doing it too. So it's interesting because if you think of that tonality, okay, and you play, you know, D sharp minor pentatonic, we're missing the root, and we're also missing the fifth. But if you look at what we're playing right there, we're basically playing all the extensions, you know, the second, the sharp 4, and the sixth. The third and the seventh are also hiding in there. So we're missing the root, and we're missing the fifth. But the interesting thing there is if you think of E, and you add E and B back into that minor pentatonic scale, you're basically, you know, really flirting with Lydian. So you really got to kind of think of, you know, what's missing and then, you know, kind of put it back in there. But Shawn's doing a little bit of that in the solo, which is really cool. You know, he's blending, like I said, you know, Lydian with the major pentatonic, and then he's kind of using this pentatonic substitution. And it's just creating this swirling world of E Lydian, which is so cool. Yeah, the first lick actually starts off with this little run out of E major pentatonic. And then he starts doing this little melodic kind of single string line that's very typical of, you know, some phrasing that you would hear from Shawn Lane. So he kind of moves like this. And there we're just kind of playing out of the major pentatonic, but it's almost like an arpeggio. Like that. So even the note selection there is really interesting. You know, it's like, whoa, it's just major pentatonic, but it sounds really cool. And then he basically grabs the 11th fret, but he dips the bar. So I'm going to mimic that by bending the 10th fret up to that A sharp. Like that, but he's basically kind of dipping in on A sharp with his bar, or I guess you can think of that as B flat too. But then he does this little legato. Like that, and that last one's a big stretch, but he's doing this. So it looks and sounds like this. And I really like that kind of mixing those notes around, because Shawn rarely ever just played a scale straight, you know, ascending or descending. He always would, you know, kind of swirl the notes around or combine them in different ways, and it catches your ear. You know, it's really, you know, it's different sounding. It doesn't sound like just a straight scale up or down. He's weaving and mixing those notes together, which is really cool. All right, the next lick is still kind of based in this dreamy, you know, E Lydian kind of vamp. And there's some really cool things going on here too. And I really like the way he starts it with a, you know, it's a pre-bent note, and then he releases it like that. And he's just kind of weaving around, you know, playing these little melodies there. And then he starts doing this like major 7 arpeggio. And kind of throws in some little trills and stuff in there too. But it's very expressive and flowing and melodic. I love it. The next lick here is this melodic line, and he's kind of playing with like a I guess a major 11 arpeggio in a way. So he's temporarily leaving, that Lydian flavor, and he's kind of mixing like Mixolydian in there a little bit. And I think it's just kind of a tonal, contrast. But it sounds like this. It's a really cool lick because he starts with that melodic phrase and then he does that half step bend there on G sharp. And then he just comes down, he's basically doing like an 11 arpeggio. That kind of thing. It almost kind of has like an Eric Johnson kind of flavor. And I really like the weird kind of trill, and then he moves down and does that weird slide right there between, C sharp and D too. Which is interesting, really expressive. Really cool lick. And here's a bonus lick too. This didn't come from the solo that we were breaking down. But this is just this crazy kind of intervallic, it's a half whole diminished lick. And he liked using that scale quite a bit because it has a very, strange and odd sound, but it catches your attention. So I've arranged this loosely around the key of E, even though it doesn't relate to E Lydian or even Mixolydian like we were just playing with. This is different, but it sounds like this. And you can see that we're doing this kind of wide interval, in the big stretch. And we're just basically cruising down. Like that. Sounds like something Buckethead would play, but it's Shawn Lane. And Buckethead definitely was very influenced by Shawn Lane, big time. Huge Shawn Lane fan. Probably from Paul Gilbert, because he studied with Paul too, and Paul's a big, Shawn Lane fan too. But anyway, that's a cool lick. And of course, Shawn Lane would play that like 100 times faster than that. Alright, that's going to wrap up this episode of 3 for All. So leave some feedback and some comments, and please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back with some more lessons, content, material very soon. Thank you.